Today, we're talking about why the housing market is so expensive. And I, as usual, asked AI what it thinks, why it's so overvalued in some areas. Doesn't mean you can't find a good deal, but some of them are just too expensive. So now, let's check out these few points we're going to go over in this video. Low interest rate, historic low interest rates, limited housing supply, increased construction cost, urbanization trends, investment demands, zoning regulations, and economic growth. So let's look at interest rates. I don't think they're historically low from like 20, 30 years ago. When you look at that, there's been like 10% over the lifespan. So I have a little graph showing right here to see where the historic trend of it was. But compared to 3 years ago, this is not very low compared to a few years ago, but that was a few years ago. And so now it's like, you got to live with the new rates. Do they might come down? Are they going to come down in a little bit? Probably before the election a little bit, but afterwards, probably not when inflation stays the same. But if the economy's going to go, you know, into the toilet, they got to lower interest rates so they can win elections and do stuff. So that was point number one. Let's look at limited housing supply. So this is probably going to be the biggest reason for it, is that when there's only a finite of houses available for you to purchase that you want, then that increases the demand, right? Or the price, right? And when you have lower items available, more people wanting them, that means that there's a more higher price to it. And it's very interesting when you see, because there's places in Florida and even in Las Vegas that go for millions of dollars. And you would think, oh, they never sell, but they do, because people want to live there. And then they, have the consequences of high prices and all that kind of stuff, just because they want to live in a desirable area. And nobody kind of wants to live in an undesirable area just in order to buy a house, right? So I remember when I bought my first house in San Jose, or in SoCal, California, Santa Cruz area, there were bidding wars. There were literally bidding wars on houses, $100,000 over asking, $200,000 over asking, no inspections. And that is because people were FOMOing in and didn't know what they were getting into and bought a house, no inspection, $100,000 over asking price. Let's get this deal done just to get into it. And that's one way that you have to do when there's low inventory. And people like me now, with a 2.9% interest rate, can't sell. I am absolutely stuck. And the worst part about it is I couldn't afford my house now as I, could in a year or two ago. So 2 years ago, with that fixed mortgage rate with 2%, I can afford it. But now if I'd have a 7-8% mortgage rate at $500,000, I don't think I could do it. And then all these other costs that went up, HOA, water, utilities, would really put a squeeze on my pocket. So now let's look at increased construction costs. And I see that a lot with Allison's dad, who's a construction guy. Costs of everything have gone up so much. The cost of lumber, the cost of labor. Everybody needs to make a profit, right? In order to stay afloat. So everything just got so much more expensive. And when you have so many people trying to buy houses and do construction, then there's a limited supply, and then it is very, very expensive. So many dogs in this area. I can't believe it. Got to turn around. But this is a gorgeous, gorgeous area in Las Vegas. And yeah, so the next thing is urbanization trends. People move to urban areas. Yeah, and I did it too. I love the urbanization of it, but it's crazy when you think about the cost of putting in all these roads, putting up all these cables underground, or putting them overground, and putting up sewer, because here in Las Vegas you cannot have any septic tanks anymore. So if you have a new development, it needs to be on sewer because we have water problems, right? Actually, the whole United States has a water problem. And so you gotta be careful with your finite resource. And so you want to recycle it. And that's why Las Vegas is putting every new construction needs to be on the sewer. And if you want to do conversion or whatnot, you need to put it into city sewer so it doesn't go into the ground and no septics anymore. What I think is actually the way to go, to be honest, because these leach fields and these constructions, when you go to like the Santa Cruz beach, where I used to live, when you think about it, that water that gets tested is so dirty from all these septic tanks. It rains, is so dirty. The water is so polluted that I would not want to go surfing there or swimming there. And if they get it all into septic, then all of a sudden you're going to have really, really nice, clean water. And I would actually consider go swimming again. So I get that urbanization trend. Investment demand. Real estate is seen as safe investment. Yes, I also do. I also invest in real estate. I also invest in stocks, crypto, and all that other stuff because you can't just bet on one horse. You better bet on the whole racetrack and bet on every horse and bet on the stock market. You bet on everything, and hopefully you are more positive than negative, right? So what do I mean? I mean that you shouldn't only bet on horses. You should bet on how much money the horse track is gonna, do. And you want to make money from the people parking. You want to make money from the food. You want to make money from everything. So you have a diversified portfolio. So you're good once retirement comes, because who knows what's going to be in 20, 30 years from now. And if Social Security is going to pay out and all these other benefits, because I think a lot of it's going to get scrapped. And at this rate of inflation, the $2,800 you're going to get is going to buy you a cheeseburger over oversimplified. Of course, it's going to be still uh, enough money for some people, but for most of us, looking at how much a gallon of gas costs, it's going to be very, very hard to make a living without any investments. Zoning and regulation, strict zoning laws. Yeah, that's always been the case, that you can't put up multifamily in San Jose area or EDUs. They just passed a law slightly like a year or so ago that you can actually put up EDUs in your backyard because there's so many people living there that you need more housing. And it is crazy that they've didn't allow more EDUs and put up duplexes and all that kind of stuff on your property, because it would help families out. It would bring the cost of living down. And yeah, we got to figure out why that is. So now let's look at economic growth and employment. Yeah, areas with strong job growth. Yes, all that kind of stuff with job growth has, if you have a bunch of good paying jobs, that means you can pay more for rent, and you can actually then pay more to, for activities, what furthers the businesses and all that. So yeah, the why house prices are so high, that's one reason. But here's the kicker. I don't think they're going to stay higher in all over the US, because there's there's a finite, there's like a finite amount of houses, right? And there's a fixed price in mortgages, right? So if you fix your mortgage and there's only so many houses that are available for sale, right? There might be more, might be less. But there's going to be, let's say there's 5,000 houses, right, for sale in one given area. And they all put mortgages on it, right? And if insurance and property taxes are going up, and you're not making more because the rate of inflation and the rate of job salaries increase isn't that much that you can afford to do that, but insurance is going up by double digits, and insurance is going up, and property taxes are going up, and HOA dues are going up. So then you're in a dilemma because you do not have the money, or you do not have the cost, the salary to support a $500,000 house. So that brings you to price deductions, right? So let's say you can afford to spend $3,000 or $4,000. That's kind of my point. So you're trying to spend, like, you have $3,000 of your and your wife's salary to go towards housing. So that's like the amount of money you have to spend. And if 3,000 goes towards insurance, there's nothing going towards the house payment, right? So then you got to figure out either move or do something else. But those $3,000 are allocated towards insurance, HOA, property taxes, and utilities, and you don't even have a mortgage yet. So it's very, very tricky to see how this is going to play out in the future, because something's got to give. Something's got to give. And insurance is the one thing that's going to not give, because when you're insuring properties and you want to take out a mortgage, the bank's going to make you take out insurance because they need to protect their assets, right? And sweetie, are we ready to turn around?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm walking with Allie over here and the little doggy. So if you have a certain amount of money to actually spend on housing and it's eaten up by insurance, property taxes, and all that, then you're kind of screwed. Then you're kind of out of luck. And it's funny to see people in the comments actually saying that their insurance went up from like $3,000 in Texas to $15,000, and they got dropped. They did all that because every few years there's a tornado or hurricane or flooding that causes them a lot of pain. So people are really upset about it, and insurance has to kick in. So one thing that they can do is, as a state governor, you can subsidize it with taxpayer money, so you can then have people still living in your state and have affordable insurance. And in Florida, I think it's called citizen insurance, where the state kind of backs it off. But that is not a good solution for the state, because if there's a lot of hurricanes, then the state is going to use up a lot of money to pay for that. And one thing that I know, and that everybody knows, is that when the state gets into anything, when state gets involved in anything, or the federal government, it's always a disaster. They never do it right. Private companies don't even do it right, but most of the time, when the state gets involved, they mess up everything. And so citizen insurance is going to be really, really interesting to see when there's going to be start claim coming in this summertime. And I'm predicting this with these heavy storms coming in, that there's in Florida, Texas, and whatnot, there's going to be so many more insurance companies going out of business. And I don't know what these people are going to do down the road with their houses, because when citizens gonna hire a lawyer not to pay out, and there's other insurance companies also that hire lawyers for them to not pay, it's going to be very, very interesting. So be aware and look at the Zillow or Redfin report of how bad your property's going to be flooded. So I have a thing right here showing, and you got to pull these reports. And it might be smarter for you to rent than buy, just because not every decision on buying is a good one. And I don't want you to fall in the trap. Do your own research. Don't listen to anybody online. You're your best advocate for yourself. Let me know what kind of topic I should cover next in the description below, and I'll see you in the next one.